Croeso and hello! This next series of videos will feature footage of the journey of writer Rob Shaw, John Pitcher and myself taken on a fact-finding mission to North Wales as part of research for the graphic novel idea first broached by Ross around 2 years ago. Rob Shaw has made great progress already on the first draft of this massive story of the real King Arthur and has wanted to visit the locations that would be featured in the story to get a real feel and flavour of the era that would be depicted. We initially intended to use the photographic and video images as part of research and information gathering, and so we have had to collate and edit the footage into a coherent video. Armed with the ever-faithful and resourceful John Pitcher, we hope to show an array of sites on the way up to take in some of Wales's great historical gems, and some that even to this day simply have not had the required level of research, thus dismissing and discarding as myths and legends the true history of Britain.
We began our road trip by joining the M4 motorway up at Talbot and then travelled west along, passing by Swansea and continuing on into Carmarthenshire. Just before you approach the junction 48 whilst travelling west along the M4, it's worth taking a look in the field alongside the motorway, as you'll be able to see the remains of Castell D, also known as a Llandilo Talabont Mott, I think. It's a large mound that rises at the roadside and stands close to the Lough River and a multi-arched railway viaduct. As you descend the hill towards junction 48, you'll pass below like a little bridge that goes over the road, and the castle will be on your left just beyond that point. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you're ever passing by this way. Passing Castell D in the motorway terminus at Pont Abraham, we cut up over the hill and took a little detour to take a few moments of the castle called Dryslwyn in the spectacular Towy Valley. The peaceful ruins of Dryslwyn Castle rise from the wide floodplain of the Towy River below. A famous siege took place at this castle during the 13th century. Rhys ap Maredydd, the grandson of the famous Lord Rhys, was leading an uprising against the English king Edward I, after previously being allied to the English king against the northern prince Llywelyn ap Gruffydd. By 1287, Rhys had won back some of his ancestral land by taking the castles of Dynevor, Carrick-Cenin and Llandyfri, and also led a force against the castle of Newcastle Emlyn. Dryslwyn was the seat of power during this period, so the English, under the command of the Earl of Cornwall, besieged the fortress. However, due to the strength of the fortification, the besiegers needed to dig a tunnel under one of the towers to hopefully bring the wall down to gain access to the fort. However, this plan went catastrophically wrong, as the tunnel collapsed early, killing all of the tunnellers, including Lord Stafford, who was still in the tunnel at the moment of collapse. These unfortunate men were never recovered from the site or remain buried beneath the hill even today. The English force eventually took the castle, but it was not the end for Rhys. His campaign continued until 1290, where he gathered a force in Ireland and returned to meet the king in battle. Rhys's force was no match for Edward's army, and Rhys was taken prisoner and taken to York, where he was executed. His former fortress was last recorded during the Owain Glyndŵr rebellion, where it was stated as being captured, and then it quietly fades from history. Now, after our quick visit to Dryslwyn, we headed off along the A40 towards Carmarthen. But just before entering the town, at a place called Abergwili, you'll notice a strong connection with the famous Merlin. There's the ancient hill fort called Bryn Merlin, has got a commanding position over the valley, and down below in the valley stands Carreg Merlin. Below the fort of Bryn Merlin is the Bishop's Palace that now contains the Carmarthen Museum. There are many large ancient trees in the grounds, and just outside the main entrance to the actual museum there's an ancient stone that was relocated there from near Llandilo, and it's got a stone cross carved into the front that's still clearly visible. Moving along just down the road from Abergwili, you'll enter the ancient town of Carmarthen. Not having much time to spare, we chose to visit just the amphitheatre. It's just quite easy to miss if you're ever passing by, because it's surrounded on all sides by the shops and houses. It's lucky to have survived the modern encroachment. You can see where they've dug into the hill and then used the removed material to build up an embankment on the southern side to construct the form of the arena. Enough remains of the site to enable you to still visualise how it might have once looked. From the amphitheatre, looking along the Towy Valley in the distance, peeking over the houses, you'll be able to see the looming fort of Bryn Merlin. The Towy River is a string of defensive sites of varying ages all the way along this route, beginning in the estuary with Llongborth Castle and Green Castle, then moving along to the town of Carmarthen, where you have the former site of the Reedy Gores at Johnston, and then in the town itself you have the Carmarthen Castle and the site of the fort either side of the road running down to the town's bridge. North of the town is Bryn Merlin, and a small motte called Pen and Nap near Llanegwyd. And then moving along upstream, you'll pass with the three large sites called Dryslwyn, Grongar and Dynevor. Dynevor having the picturesque ruins on the hill and the fort in the grounds below. In the higher reaches of the river, you got the sites of Castell Meirig, with this Meirig presumably being the Meirig of David, but who knows. And then finally, in the northern reaches of the river, you'll have Llongborth Castle and its fort near one of the adjacent churches. Now, heading off from Carmarthen, we headed up the road in the direction of Newcastle Emlyn. And travelling along this road, we noticed one of the villages we passed by was called Cynnoel Elfed. There's a person called Cynnoel who's said to have been one of the survivors of the Battle of Camlan. Whether this village has any relation to that Cynnoel, I don't know, but it just reminded us of that character from the story. Another roadside site we passed on the trip was a place called Tom and Esba. It's recorded as being a motte, and you can see it from the car. And there's like a little junction opposite here where you could just pull in if you ever wanted to jump out and just get a quick photo or anything. Our main target on the journey on the way up to meet Rob Shaw in North Wales was the site of Llongborth. So we continued onwards towards the coast. In the Llongborth battle theory, there's a site called Bedd Geraint, mentioned as the burial site of Prince Geraint, who said to have died of the battle. So we couldn't miss the chance to get a quick glimpse of the farm and the landscape whilst on the way to the beach.
Using the work of Wilson and Blackett and the drive and energy of Ross Broadstock, we will show that the great elusive battle sites of Arthur are indeed very real and are supported by overwhelming written and physical evidence. A famous battle of King Arthur that not surprisingly cannot be found, apparently, the vicious civil war battle in the surf of Llongborth, is remembered in the locality where Prince Geraint was killed in action, marked by a grave 3 miles inland.
Now the coast road takes us north in the direction of Aberystwyth. But before we reach the town of Aberystwyth, there's a lovely place to pull in and take in a spectacle view, and it's near Aberarth. It's a place where you could just pull up in the car, so it doesn't matter if you suffer from mobility issues or anything like that. Now we run out of time for any more stop-offs on the way up, or we'd be late to meet Rob. So after making our way through the seaside town of Aberystwyth, our last port of call is a little valley called Cwm It's a short distance north of Dolgellau. It's within an area there's many links with the Battle of Camlan, and it's northwest of the larger main Camlan Valley. And hopefully we'll have a look at the bigger valley on the journey home. So we did park up for a very brief look at this other side Camlan Valley, and before we headed off north to meet Rob at the Great Orme in Llandudno, and then the real exploring to begin.